There is a certain kind of power a woman carries when she chooses silence. Not the silence of fear or oppression, but the silence of a soul that knows her worth. It's a silence that doesn't come from having nothing to say. Oh no, she has much to say. She carries entire histories in her chest, libraries of pain and praise, of wrongs endured and victories earned. But she doesn't always let the world in on that story, not because she cannot speak, but because she chooses not to waste her breath where it won't be understood. You see, there is thunder in the hush of a wise woman. When a woman learns to hold her peace, even when the world is baiting her into battle, she becomes more than herself. She becomes a vessel of discernment. She becomes a gatekeeper of sacred things, and what's more, she becomes an echo of the divine. That kind of woman, she doesn't throw her pearls before swine, and she doesn't trade her dignity for applause. Her silence is not empty. It is full of knowing, full of strength, full of God. We live in a time where noise is mistaken for power, where voices fight to be the loudest in the room, and chaos is often rewarded with attention. But the silent woman, oh, she knows something different. She knows that just because she can clap back doesn't mean she should. She knows that being right doesn't always mean being loud. And she knows that silence, when wielded with wisdom, can cut deeper than any word ever could. Her restraint is a revolution. Some will misunderstand her. They'll say she is too quiet, too soft, too passive. But what they don't know is that silence can be a protest. It can be a prayer. It can be a promise. Some women survive by shouting, but others survive by retreating into the refuge of silence, letting God do the talking. When she's silent, it isn't that she is absent. It's that she's listening to the rhythm of heaven, to the whisper of the Spirit, to the lessons written between the lines of life. And let me tell you, it takes strength to stay quiet in a world that demands your reaction. It takes courage to keep still when the pressure is pushing you to speak, just for the sake of speaking. The silent woman has learned that not every battle is hers to fight. Some are God's, and she knows how to get out of his way. I've seen such women dignified, poised, unmoved. They sit in the storm and smile with the knowledge that the wind does not worry them, because they are not tethered to the approval of the crowd. Their roots run too deep. Their foundation is too strong. These women have cried in silence, labored in silence, healed in silence, and still they rise. You might see her at the back of the room, unnoticed by many, but she is never unnoticed by God. In fact, her stillness draws him near, for in the quiet she gives God space to speak, and he surrounds her. He shelters her, he fights for her. The world may overlook her, but heaven is watching over her with great tenderness. She does not need to defend herself every time she is misunderstood. She knows that her truth does not depend on anyone's validation. She knows that God has already spoken over her life, and when heaven speaks, the voices of men become background noise. That is the protection she walks in, not armor made of steel, but armor made of faith. A divine hush covers her, and no weapon formed against her shall prosper, not because she shouted it away, but because she trusted it away. A silent woman is not invisible. She is invincible in a way the world can't measure. Not loud, but luminous. Not boastful, but bold. And the God she serves, he hears even the words she never says out loud. He reads the tremble in her spirit. He counts the tears she dares not let fall. And he says, this one, this quiet one, I will protect. Let the world misunderstand her. Let them call her too quiet. God calls her covered. There is a sacred truth that often escapes the ears of the impatient world, that when a woman chooses silence, she is not left vulnerable or alone. Instead, she becomes wrapped in something far greater than any armor forged by human hands. God, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, wraps the quiet woman in divine protection, a shield so powerful that the noise and chaos of the world cannot penetrate it. This protection is unseen, yet unshakable. It is a fortress built not by walls of stone, but by the hands of the Almighty Himself. Think about this. The world rushes and shouts, demanding attention, validation, and response. But the silent woman moves differently. She moves with a grace that says, "I do not need to prove myself to you." And because of this, she becomes a mystery, an enigma to many, but a treasure to God. Her silence is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of being held by the divine hand that watches over her in secret. God sees what no one else sees. While others focus on noise and clamor, God looks into the heart. He sees the battles fought quietly in the night, the prayers whispered when no one else is listening, the tears wiped away in solitude. And because He sees, He moves to protect. There is a divine promise that says, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That secret place is the sanctuary of her silence. She may be overlooked by the crowd, dismissed by those who do not understand the power of stillness, but God does not overlook her. His eyes are on the quiet corners where she sits, where she prays, where she holds her peace when the world expects noise. He surrounds her with His presence, creating a hedge of protection that cannot be broken by human hands or words. This protection does not mean her path will be without trials. No, even the most protected face storms. But the silent woman faces those storms with a peace that passes understanding, a calm rooted not in her own strength, but in the strength of the one who guards her. She walks through the fire and the flood, but she does not walk alone. God's protection is like a shield of light that repels the darkness. It is a refuge when the winds howl and the waves rise. Many times the silent woman's protection is tested, but it never fails. When the world demands explanation, she offers none, for she knows that God's protection does not require justification. It requires faith, faith in a God who fights battles she cannot see, who hears prayers she does not speak aloud, and who defends her with a love that knows no bounds. And so she is free, free from the need to defend herself at every turn, free from the exhaustion of proving her worth to those who cannot see it. In her freedom, she finds a strength that is quiet but fierce, a power that is gentle but unstoppable. Her silence becomes a sanctuary, a sacred space where God's protection dwells. It is in this divine protection that the silent woman discovers her true identity. Not defined by the noise around her, not shaped by the opinions of others, but rooted in the unchanging love and care of her Creator. She is protected because she trusts. She is shielded because she believes. She is safe because God is faithful. This is the secret many fail to understand. Silence is not vulnerability. Silence is power in disguise. And the protection God gives the silent woman is proof that she is never truly alone. When she chooses to be silent, she chooses to be held. Held by the one who knows her completely and loves her endlessly. So let her silence be a testament not of absence, but of presence. The presence of God moving on her behalf, guarding her steps, and surrounding her with a protection no one can break. In her silence, she is not forgotten. She is protected. There is a sacred rhythm in silence that the hurried world rarely understands. While many are caught up in the rush to speak, to be heard, to respond immediately, the silent woman has learned the art of listening, and not just listening to the noise around her, but listening deeply, to the still small voice that often goes unheard amidst the clamor. In her quiet, she hears what the world drowns out. You see, the world is noisy. It's full of opinions shouted from rooftops, distractions clamoring for attention, and voices that compete to drown each other out. But the silent woman does not get caught in that chaos. Instead, she tunes her heart to a different frequency, the one that resonates with truth beyond the surface. She listens not only with her ears but with her soul. She listens for the whispers of wisdom, for the quiet nudges of conscience, and for the gentle direction of God's Spirit. This kind of listening is a gift. It requires patience, humility, and faith. It means resisting the urge to react impulsively, and instead waiting to understand what is truly being said beneath the words. It means seeing beyond appearances and hearing the cries hidden in silence. The silent woman hears not just the spoken word, but the language of the heart. In a world that often values loudness over listening, the silent woman becomes a sanctuary. People may come to her with their troubles, their stories, their confessions, knowing that she will hear without judgment, without interruption. Her silence is an invitation to truth, because it creates space for others to be heard. She is a safe harbor in a storm of noise. But more than that, she hears the divine voice, the whisper of God that calls her forward, warns her of danger, comforts her in sorrow, and encourages her in hope. While others are distracted by the distractions of life, she remains attentive to that sacred communication. She knows that some answers come not in thunderous proclamations, but in quiet assurance, and so she waits. She listens, she obeys. This listening is not passive, it is active and powerful. It is through this deep hearing that she discerns what battles to fight and what storms to endure in silence. It is through this listening that she gains clarity when the world is clouded in confusion. The silent woman's power lies not just in what she chooses to say, but in what she chooses to hear. And sometimes what she hears is not comfortable. Sometimes she hears the harsh truth about herself, about others, or about the world. But she listens anyway, because she knows that truth spoken softly is still truth. And it is through embracing that truth, even in silence, that she grows stronger. The silent woman understands that silence is not absence, it is presence. It is presence with herself, with others, and with God. It is the presence that allows her to absorb wisdom, rather than simply react to noise. It is the presence that helps her remain grounded when everything around her seems unsteady. She listens to the cries of the oppressed, even when they are whispered. She hears the unspoken pain in a friend's eyes. She perceives the subtle signs that others miss. In her silence, she becomes a guardian of secrets and a keeper of sacred stories. And in doing so, she honors the humanity in herself and in others. Her silence teaches the world a powerful lesson that sometimes the most important thing we can do is listen. That sometimes healing begins not with words, but with a quiet heart that truly hears. That sometimes wisdom comes not from speaking, but from the patient reception of what is spoken and unspoken alike. The silent woman hears what the world cannot. She hears the call to faith when doubt tries to shout her down. She hears the promise of a new day when despair tries to convince her to give up. She hears the song of hope when fear tries to silence her. And because she hears these things, she can stand tall and steady, even when the world around her is falling apart. So, never mistake silence for emptiness or absence of power. In silence, the woman hears deeply. She hears life's truths, God's voice, and the whispers of her own soul. And in hearing, she finds the strength to move forward with courage and grace. There is a wisdom in listening that is louder than any shout, and in that wisdom the silent woman lives. There is a quiet dignity in the silence of a woman that carries more than just the weight of her own story. She carries the legacy of generations before her, mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers whose prayers, struggles, and triumphs are folded into the fabric of her being. Her silence is not accidental or empty. It is full of history, rich with the echoes of those who came before her and whose voices still speak through her quiet strength. When she sits in silence, she is not alone. She is surrounded by the spirit of her foremothers' women who faced hardships and heartbreaks, who bore the burdens of injustice and pain, yet stood strong and prayed on. The silence of the woman today is the continuation of those prayers, the living testament to their endurance and hope. Her quietness is a sacred space where the past and present meet, where the prayers whispered in dimly lit rooms long ago still resonate. It is important to recognize that this legacy is not always loud or visible. It is often found in the unspoken sacrifices of women who had no platform, no microphone, no grand stage to declare their worth. But their lives, marked by resilience, faith, and love, have paved the way for the woman who now chooses silence as her strength. She is standing on the shoulders of giants, whose silent battles carved out paths of freedom and dignity. This inheritance of silence is a powerful kind of communication. It speaks of resilience in the face of oppression, of courage when hope seemed distant, and of faith that refused to be extinguished. The silent woman today is a living bridge between the struggles of the past and the promises of the future. Her stillness is a tribute to the women who prayed her into being, and who taught her that sometimes the loudest cry is found in quiet endurance. Her silence holds the weight of untold stories, stories of love lost and found, of dreams deferred but not destroyed, of battles fought not with fists or voices, but with steady faith and unwavering hope. In her quiet, she honors those stories, carrying them forward with reverence and strength. It is as if each silent breath she takes is a prayer lifted for the generations that came before and those yet to come. There is a sacredness in this silence because it is not just about holding back words. It is about holding onto identity, dignity, and legacy. It is a refusal to let the noise of the world erase the voices of those who came before her. Instead, she embodies their strength, their prayers, their dreams, and their spirit. Her silence is a sanctuary for that legacy, a place where it can live on, grow, and inspire. And this legacy is not static. It is alive and breathing in the silent woman today. She may not always speak loudly about the past, but the power of that past is written in her posture, in her resilience, in the way she carries herself through the storms. Her silence is a living history, a testament to survival and to the promise that the chains of yesterday will not define the future. This connection to generations past also gives her a profound sense of purpose. She knows that her silence is not just for herself. It is for those who came before her and for those who will come after. It is a sacred trust, a responsibility to hold steady and strong when the world tries to pull her into noise and chaos. Her silence is an act of reverence, a prayer, and a declaration that the strength of many flows through her veins. In that silence, she finds a power that the world cannot take away. Power born from the endurance of countless women who faced adversity with grace. She is the daughter of their sacrifices and the mother of future hope. The prayers whispered by her foremothers have not been in vain. They live on in her calm strength and quiet dignity. So when you see a woman who chooses silence, know that she is not silent by chance. She is the vessel of a legacy too great to be spoken all at once. A legacy that speaks louder than any words. Her silence carries the weight of history, the voice of generations, and the promise of a future rooted in faith and strength. She is not alone in her stillness. She is surrounded, protected, and empowered by the prayers and sacrifices of those who prayed her into being. Her silence is the prayer of a people, alive and unbroken. There is a deep misunderstanding about the silent woman. Too often, her quietness is mistaken for passivity, her stillness seen as surrender. But nothing could be further from the truth. A silent woman is not passive. She is patient. She waits not in weakness, but in strength. She waits with purpose, with faith, and with a quiet confidence that the right moment will come. Her patience is an act of power. In a world that celebrates immediate reactions, fast decisions, and loud proclamations, patience feels like an outdated virtue. Yet the silent woman knows better. She understands that life's most meaningful victories are rarely won in haste. They come through endurance, through waiting on the divine timing, through trusting that God's plans unfold when they are meant to, not when we demand them to. She sits in that stillness, knowing that her waiting is not wasted time, it is preparation. Waiting is not passive. It requires a strength that many do not see. It requires discipline to hold your peace when everything inside is ready to explode. It requires courage to stay steady when the world is pushing you to move, to speak, to react. The silent woman has learned that sometimes the most powerful thing she can do is to remain still, to listen, to pray, and to trust the process even when the outcome is not yet visible. She is patient because she believes in a greater plan, a divine orchestration beyond her control. She knows that rushing can lead to regret, that speaking too soon can cloud truth, and that reacting in anger or fear can close doors meant to open. Her patience is a shield, guarding her spirit from the damage of impulsiveness and the noise of the world. It is a sacred waiting that protects her peace. This patience is an active waiting. It is not sitting idle, it is preparing. The silent woman uses her waiting time wisely. She strengthens her spirit, sharpens her understanding, and prays without ceasing. She waits with expectation, not resignation. She waits with faith, not doubt. And this waiting transforms her. It molds her into someone who is ready, not just for what is coming, but for what she is becoming in the process. There is a profound difference between silence born of fear and silence born of faith. The fearful silence is heavy and anxious, filled with uncertainty and doubt. But the faith-filled silence is light and steady, rooted in trust and hope. The silent woman embodies this faith-filled silence. She is not giving up, she is giving over. She is not surrendering to defeat. She is surrendering to God's perfect timing. And when that moment comes when God says move, she moves with purpose and power. Because she has prepared in the silence, she steps forward with clarity, strength, and grace. She does not rush in confusion or desperation. She advances with confidence and peace. Her patience has not been wasted. It has been a foundation. Too often, we look for signs of power in loud voices and bold actions. But the silent woman teaches us another way. Power is sometimes found in stillness. Strength sometimes shows itself in patience. And victory often comes through waiting, not rushing. Her patience is a testament to her faith and to her understanding of God's ways. So do not mistake her quiet for weakness. Do not assume that because she is silent, she is inactive. She is working, growing, and trusting in ways that are invisible to the world. Her patience is a promise that she is not done yet, that she is waiting for the perfect time to shine, to speak, to act. There is a dignity in this kind of waiting, a dignity that cannot be shaken by circumstances or opinions. It is a quiet confidence that God's timing is best, and that she is held in His hands until that time comes. The silent woman waits not with despair, but with hope, not with fear, but with faith. In her patience she teaches us all a lesson, that sometimes the greatest strength is found not in what we say or do, but in what we wait for. And when we wait well, when we trust God's timing, we become unstoppable. She waits, and in that waiting she is powerful beyond measure. There is a remarkable truth about the silent woman. In her quiet, she becomes the loudest voice of God's glory. It may seem paradoxical. How can silence shout? How can stillness speak? But sometimes the deepest truths are not spoken with the mouth. They are spoken through the presence, the posture, and the power of a soul surrendered to God. The silent woman carries within her a voice far greater than words, a voice that declares the faithfulness, the grace, and the glory of God without uttering a sound. She does not need to raise her voice to be heard, because her very being testifies. Her calm in the chaos, her steady faith amid uncertainty, her unwavering trust in God when all around her seems to crumble. These are the loud proclamations she makes. Her silence is a stage on which God's glory is displayed. It is a canvas on which His power is painted in bold and beautiful strokes. When she remains silent in the face of adversity, she is not defeated. She is victorious. Her stillness is a loud statement of faith, a declaration that she trusts in the unseen, that she believes in the power of the one who fights her battles. In her silence she is saying more than words ever could. God is with me. I am covered. I am protected. I will not be shaken. Her quiet presence becomes a beacon, drawing others toward hope and strength. People see the peace she carries and wonder where it comes from. They feel the power in her calm and recognize the source beyond her own strength. In this way, the silent woman becomes a living testimony to God's sustaining power, a witness to His faithfulness that transcends explanation. There is a sacredness in this kind of silence, because it invites others to witness the divine without distraction. When words fail or become empty noise, silence holds space for God's glory to shine through. It is in this quiet that the heart is touched, the spirit is moved, and faith is ignited. The silent woman offers the world a glimpse of something eternal, something unshakable, something deeply holy. Her silence is not a retreat from life. It is a powerful engagement with it. It is a refusal to be swept away by the chaos and confusion that so often cloud our vision. Instead, she stands firm, rooted in her faith, anchored by the knowledge that God's glory is revealed not just in grand speeches or loud declarations, but in the quiet confidence of those who trust Him. This trust transforms her silence into a song of resilience, obedience, and surrender. It is a melody that speaks of battles won without fighting, of storms weathered without fear, and of a heart that rests secure in the promises of God. In this way, the silent woman's presence becomes a powerful voice, echoing God's glory in every room she enters. She teaches us that sometimes the greatest impact is made not through volume, but through virtue, not through speaking the loudest, but through living the fullest expression of God's grace. Her silence shouts the loudest truths because it is filled with faith, hope, and love qualities that cannot be silenced or diminished. And when the silent woman finally chooses to speak, her words carry weight beyond measure. They are not hurried or shallow. They are deep, intentional, and filled with purpose. Because she has learned in silence what many never understand, that true power lies not in the sound of one's voice, but in the depth of one's spirit. In her silence, she becomes a vessel for God's glory, a living testament to His power to protect, to heal, and to uplift. She embodies the truth that sometimes silence is the language through which God speaks loudest, that sometimes stillness is the ground where miracles grow. So, when you encounter a silent woman, do not mistake her quiet for absence or weakness. Listen closely, for in her stillness you will hear the roar of God's glory, powerful, unyielding, and magnificent beyond words. Her silence is not the absence of voice, it is the presence of God.